Hello and welcome to another video on Microsoft Fabric. And in today's video, we are going to discuss how to do data warehousing without using an identity column. As you know, as of now, the warehouse in Microsoft Fabric do not support identity column and its alternative. So we are going to see how we can overcome this problem by using something known as unique identifier. Now to use unique identifier, we are going to use a function new ID. This new ID function is a T-SQL function which can generate a unique ID each time it has been called in SQL Server or in T-SQL. So in T-SQL, we have something known as unique identifier. As of now, we cannot also default the table on unique identifier. But what we are going to do is we are going to take an approach where without even creating a default value or an identity column, will be able to create our data warehouse. So let's jump onto the app.powerbi.com, and on app.powerbi.com, to do these things, I would like to create a new data warehouse or warehouse, and in that one I would like to load certain data and then transform it into the factored dimension. So here is my app.powerbi.com, and I'm going to go to a workspace, and my workspace would be 01 Fabric. So let me click on the workspace, and in the workspace I will click on 01 Fabric. And inside 01 Fabric, first thing I would like to do is I would like to create a new data warehouse or warehouse. So once I click on the new, I scroll down, I will see a warehouse option, and I'll click on the warehouse, and it will ask for a name, and let me call it as DW3, and the DW3 has been created. Now I would like to load the data in DW3. So it will take a little bit of time. It will create the schemas and everything, and it will take a little bit of time to load. So while it is loading, let me show you what I want to bring it to it. So I have already opened my GitHub account, which is https://github.com Amit Chandak PBI/Power BI. So this is the link which you need. I'm going to share this in the description also. Here, if you scroll down, you will see a file which is basically beginner tutorial. Now this file, this is the link which is on the top. In the top link, you can replace blob with the raw, or you go here, you do have a raw link here where you have the download button also, but you can right click here and you can say copy links and keep this link handy because we will need it while loading the data. Now my warehouse is ready, and you can see there are schemas, and right now I'm going to load everything by default on the DBO schema. I don't need to do much effort for that. We have a warehouse connector which is going to do that. Now there is a get data option, and in the get data option, you can see this new Dataflow Gen2 option is there, and I'm going to use it. The advantage which I've seen in case of the lake house, if I use this Dataflow Gen2 from the lake house, it was automatically setting it for me. So I would like to see, is it going to automatically set destination for me when I start from here? So I clicked on Dataflow Gen2, I came here. And next thing I'm going to do is in the Dataflow Gen2, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press on the get data. I'm going to press on the get data, and from the get data, I'll further click on more. And I'm looking for web API or something very similar to that. So we have this, I typed WE and I got this web API, and this is the connector I'm planning to use. So let me click here, and it is asking for a new connection here. No data gateway, anonymous user, because I have keep that file public. So anonymous authentication should help you out. Now let's press next, and so it is showing me sheet 1 now, and let me see what is there in the sheet 1. And as you can see, I have quite a good amount of data here, quite a few columns, and I have the basically it's a retail sales kind of a data where I have order ID, order date, item ID, category, subcategory, subcategory, brand, unit price, and then I also have the geography information, and the customer information is nothing but customer ID. So I'm going to check this. Please remember, unless you click on this checkbox, is not going to select anything. Once you click on the checkbox, only then it's going to select and going to load it. So whatever is not selected in the checkbox, I'm not going to do is I'm going to press the create button, which is on the right bottom of this pop-up box. And once I create the create button, it should load the data into Dataflow Gen2, and the name of the Dataflow Gen2 is Dataflow 31. Previously we had a challenge where we were not able to rename it for the first time. Now we can do it. We can call it DW3 single table. Now sometime if it doesn't work, you can come back and change it. Just wait a little bit after you given the name and then do rest of your operations. Now my sheet 1 is already there, and let me try to rename it, and let me call it sales underscore STG or retail underscore STG. Typically I usually call this, and you can see that there is a warehouse destination already set up here. Okay, and so this is the by default warehouse destination which has been set up, and I can actually click here and see the detail, or I can go to the settings and I can change it. So if I want, I can go ahead and change it. So I would like to see everything is correct, so definitely I'm going back. But as you can see, the same table name it has taken, and I want to go to 01 fabric DW3. I'm doing just this exercise to showcase you what is happening, but please remember it was able to do it default, and so that's the advantage you get when you come from there. So I just made sure that everything is there, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish it. And I need to scroll a little bit and find out where is that data flow, and we have renamed it also. So DW, you can see DW single table is one which I'm seeing here. So what is the process? The process of the data flow is first is going to publish it in progress, where it's going to validate your data and going to load it into the Dataflow Gen2, and then there is a refresh which is going to happen, which is actually going to load the data in your data warehouse or the warehouse. So that's the process which is going to happen, and as you can see, it has quickly finished of the first process, and now it is doing the second load process. Now while it is happening, I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm also going to bring today ChatGPT. So I'm going to do is I'm going to create the ETL which I want to achieve this task of creating dimensions and fact from a single table from ChatGPT. So the refresh has finished. You can see DW single table refresh. It has been finished successfully. Let's go to the 3 dots and just confirm from here. You can see that it has finished. It takes a little bit of time. You can click here and see more details. Now time has come that we open the data warehouse and see the details. So I clicked on DW3, and now the data warehouse is opening, and we should be able to see this table sales staging here in the DBO schema. And as you can see, we are able to see this table. Now what I would like to do is I would like to also open this into SQL Server Management Studio. So I'll go to the setting icon on the top, and in the setting item on the top, if I click on that, I'll get this URL SQL connection string. I can copy this, and now I can go to SQL Server Management Studio, which I have already opened, and I can give this URL my login using universal MFA. In case you have enabled multi-factor authentication, you can use that, or otherwise you can use the other option which is available. Now on the other screen, it is asking me to log in on the browser, which I have done, and it is showing me the message that is going to open it, and it's opening here. So let's click on the databases, and it should show us DW3 also here. And once we open DW3, I should be able to see the table here. Now why I opened, while I can see some of these operations on the browser itself, like on the browser itself, I can ask for a create script. I can right click and say new SQL script, create script, and all those. But I would like to do the same thing here on the SQL Server Management Studio. So on the SQL Server Management Studio now, I'm going to right click on the table, and I want to do 2 things here. Basically, first is select 1000 rows, and I'll tell you where I'm going to use this script. And second one, I would like to create the script, create to table and a new window. Now using this, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to give me a script to create dimension tables as well as the fact table. So now this is here. I'm going to copy this script. Fine. And now let's go to ChatGPT. Now I have already tested out something very similar, and let's see how ChatGPT behave this time around. So I have opened ChatGPT. This is ChatGPT free version which you have. Here I'm going to write down, I have this single table with dimensions, members, and fact values. I would like to split this into fact and dimension to create a star schema in SQL Server database. And I'll say Control Enter or Shift Enter, and I'll paste this script. Then I'll say I would like to create following dimensions with primary key without using identity column and identity column. I would like to use unique identifier data type and new ID function. I would not like to default PK key, or I can write primary key with new ID. Select statement should take care. And then let's tell you unique identifier is like UUID, unique across database. So this is what is unique identifier. This is a unique across database. So identity column was unique within the table, but unique identifier is unique across the table. So two tables will also not have the same ID. So this information we have told. Now we have to tell him what kind of queries it has to do or dimension it has to create. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the select statement, and I'm going to say create following dimensions, and I'm going to say first one is item, and I'm also going to write down pk underscore key. Fine. So item with distinct, no, following dimension with distinct member values. Okay, fine. So I give an item, then same way I'm going to copy. Let's say now region is a separate dimension, so I'm going to make that little bit different. I'm going to say number 2 is geography, geo. I'm going to simply going to call, and I'm going to remove the region from here. I'm also going to remove brand from there. Now let's go, and I'll say order type. 3 is order underscore type, and I have given that. So it's giving some code. Okay, So let's understand. I think we need to give a little bit more information, but let's see what it is giving. So as you can see, it has given all the dimension and the fact code while I was scrolling. They pay attention that there are a few challenges here. Like in the dimension, it's good to see that it is using the unique identifier, but in warehouse we cannot have primary key as well as default. So something we have to tell the ChatGPT that it should not do that. Second is that it is not using the unique identifier in the select statement. So we have to tell him how to use the unique identifier into the select statement, and post that it should be able to generate a code. So now this is, we are going to, we got a code, and now what we are going to do is basically we are going to teach the system this is how you're going to do it correctly, and then the system should respond to that. So that's what we call the prompting of the system to get the right set of output. And same thing, you will see that it is repeating in all other dimension. It has done a good job, but we need little bit different things. Same way you can say it is given a create table. It is also given an insert statement which can insert, and it is taken care of. Look, it is joining with the dimension on the original key. See, we have nowhere mentioned the original keys here. Now see here, it is actually using the state, city, state, and geography and location ID, because it is not able to identify the unique one there. So it's fine. We're going to keep these things right now. We can furthermore train the system by telling that location ID is a primary key. Okay. So these way it will be able to generate a better one. But right now what we are going to do is we are going to make it really simple by having least amount of inputs and going to generate this one. But you can specific instruction. So we'll say, now we'll say, fine, I also need the insert of dimension is not correct, as the insert of dimension is not correct, as I do not want to default the primary key. Okay, fine. So and let's copy this and give him an example and say, please find correct example. Here we are going to give the script, and we are going to remove this default new ID, and fine. Then we are going to say here, and because it's not also going to define the primary key, so we are going to simply say not null, because in data warehouse we even don't have primary key. So we'll say we'll define it not null, and then this insert statement, what we are going to do is we are going to again say shift enter, select a dot star comma, so we will say new. First of all, we need to give the unique identifier, so geo key, and let's rename it's pk underscore key. Everywhere we need pk underscore key. So we'll say you need to give pk key comma city, and we say select new id bracket comma, and let's make it new id comma a dot star from this and this. Okay, change all the dimension code based on this. Also add region dimension. What else we wanted to add? Payment method dimension. Provide create statement of dimensions and fact and procedure to load data into fact. Okay, now somewhere the spellings are correct. I'm just taking the, okay, let's type that. Now let us see what happens. Okay, so it's saying something apologizing it and giving the item dimension. See, it's made it as a PK key. See now the new ID and all the columns it has given. Okay. Order type dim it is also giving. Region dim. See, it's able to identify that. Payment method. It has given the code, fact, and it has given. Okay, so time has come. Let's copy all these one by one. Okay. So copy the code and see, does it work? So I go to SQL Server Management Studio. Let me open a new query here. And in this new query, let me execute this statement and check it out. Is it going to work or not? So this has worked. Does the insert work or not? Okay, that's the testing, isn't it? You can see it's successfully able to do it. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to bring this, and I'm not testing this code at all. I'm simply going to go ahead and test this code finally. So geography dimension is coming in. Just check PK key, city ID, state, location ID, distinct, and distinct new ID. I'm even not validating the data. We will go ahead and check after we create everything. So we will also see how good ChatGPT is doing a job for us. Prompt engineering we are doing. We are asking ChatGPT and bringing in things. So third table I'm bringing in for you again from ChatGPT. See, we have seen how we are going to bring in the correct code from ChatGPT. While it is executing, I'm copying another piece of the code. It has been done. Let's remove it. Let's add another piece of code. While it is doing it, I'm doing it a little bit fast. Now copy code, you can already see there is an option. See, if those of you who did not notice, there was an option here for copy code. So I'm copying from there. Now this one is also done. Region is also done. We are going for payment method, dim payment method. So in that data engineering, I have outsourced to ChatGPT. Okay. And we have to see how good or bad it was. Now this is the statement to create the final fact table. Let's see. This is the fact table, order ID, order date key, item ID. Now the thing here is it do have expected a date dimension. Okay. And it has not given us. So now we have to give code for, and let us see, was it creating a key for that? So see, there is no date dimension here added, but it has told us, see, that is going to give us the date key. So we have to ask, give us the code for date dimension on order underscore date and add that to create and load procedure of fact. Okay. And let's see what happens. Now this is something which we have to see whether this is going to work or not. So let's say copy the code. So primary key is something which we don't need as usual. We'll call it not null only. So primary key doesn't work. So we are not going to, so we're going to modify this one. Dim date. Let's see it was created or not. Okay. We've made so let's run this code now, create table code. Now it is completed. Now let's run this. And let me run this, but before running, let me change it because I don't have too much of data. So what I'm going to do from 2012, I'm going to make it only till 2022. So it should load lesser amount of data, and let me run it. So date table has finished loading. It took a little bit more time, but I do have a separate script which I have given on the blog. I can share that also, and we can check out how can we optimize that also. But right now I wanted to use the script which ChatGPT has given to us. So we'll stay with this, but we would just like to see what kind of data it has loaded. So on the left hand side, I have already refreshed my tables, and let me right click on the table, the date table, and say select 1000 rows. And now let me see what kind of data which is coming in. So data has come now. So data is available here, and I'm hopeful that dates are there. This is how the full date keys looks like. This is how the full date is looking like. Go ahead and check the fact code now. This is my fact code, copy. So date, order ID, date key, item ID, geography key, item order type key, region key, payment key, unit price, this, and all these things are coming. Okay, and let's open a new query, and I'm going to do a little bit of modification here in this one. So let me copy the complete script, copy this one, go to a new pane, and I'm pasting this out. So this is my ETL, and this is my, so let me paste the create and the procedure here. And so this is my create statement. I want one modification here. This is like one thing which I'm going to copy here. Unit price as float, I'm going to copy here and put a comma, and I'm going to rename this as gross amount. And let me keep it as a gross amount. And here in my code, after the customer ID, I'm going to say as gross amount. Fine. So I have done a little bit of modification, and one more modification I have to do is I need to add this to the select list. So let me modify this one also a little bit. Enter, and I'm going to add this here. So at the end, comma. So table has been modified and load script has been modified, and we are all set to load our fact table and create our fact table. So let's first create this table and see is it able to create. And first of all, it's not going to create a primary key, so we are just going to say it's not null. Now few places ChatGPT has given us primary key. We cannot create a primary key there, so we are going to remove it. And now let's create this procedure. So procedure is completed. Let's call this procedure, execute procedure name, and run it. Now this procedure is going to take a little bit of time, and the data will be loaded, and post that we are going to create our model. Now how do we validate this data? Now the question might be coming to your mind. So remember, we have this staging table, says staging, which contains everything. So what we are going to do is we are going to put in, let's say, brand from the staging table and sum of quantity, and the same thing we are going to repeat it on our dimensions. So those numbers should match. Now as a quality assurance engineer, how would you do in the previous world? Because in the previous world, this would land somewhere on the database or on the lake. So you need to know SQL for that. But here you don't need, because both the things would be available in Power BI UI, the Power BI service UI, and we will be able to validate them side by side, the data is matching or not. So once the data load get finished, what we are going to do is we are going to check out, is our data matching or not. We are going to create certain visuals side by side, checking out that the staging data is matching with our main data or not, the fact table and the dimension table data. So we're going to model it, and we are going to leave staging table as is. With the model and with the staging table, we are going to compare our data and check it out. Is the data coming in fine or not? The code which we have got from the ChatGPT, the prompt engineering which we have done today, has it paid off or not? And will you be able to use that in future? Will you be able to get the high quality code from ChatGPT, or the Copilot comes in? These are the similar kind of things you are going to do there. So we are going to test that out. So we will do once this data load is finished. Oh, okay. So data has loaded. It is showing few number of rows which has been loaded. So let me do one thing. Let me copy these number of rows and just validate, are these the same number of rows we are having in our staging. So let's validate, are we have the same number of rows in our staging. So select count star from okay. So it's going to do count star, and it's giving 176,960 for the same number. So number of rows has not changed from the staging to fact. This is the first test which has passed. It means the ETL has properly worked. Now we have to query the data into this table, some 1,000 rows, and check it out whether this table or the fact table really have some data which is good data, which is having all the keys and all the rows. So let's select some 100 rows. So select top 100 star from this table, and I can do the same thing on the UI version also. And let's look at this: order ID, date key, item key, geography key, order type key, region key, payment method key, and all our columns are available. And you can see the multiplication also happening, quantity into unit price, which also seems correct. So time has come, we go back to the Fabric UI, and in the Fabric UI, let's start doing little bit more things. So in the Fabric UI, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you by refresh that, okay, it's already refreshing, but let me press refresh, that all the tables are there. So we are going to see all the tables out here. And so you can see all the tables. It's already clicked on the staging, so it's going to load the preview of the staging. And I can click on the fact table, and it's going to load the preview of the fact table. But the thing which we are right now most interested in to quickly create a model and check the things in Power BI. So for that, I'm going to show you the model. In the bottom on the left hand side, we have these three things: data, query, and model. And model is the one thing where we are interested in. So I'm going to click on the model, and this is open for me. Now we have to do the quick join of our fact table with all these dimension table. So I'm bringing it a little bit in between, and let me do a little bit of settlement of these things around this one. Let me see if I don't want to miss anything. This staging is fine, keeping it a little bit away. Okay, is basically item key and item PK key. Let's join these things. Let's see what kind of relationship it creates. Okay, many to one single directional relationship. That's what we wanted. So done. Now what is the next key? Order type key. Where is our order type? Dim order type. PK key. Again, we are expecting many to one single directional. Okay. What's the next key? Region key. Again, many to one single directional. What's the next thing we are expecting? Payment method key. We missed it out, but no worries. Now we are going to complete it. Fact payment PK key we should be having here. All places we have this PK key. That's a good thing we have done here. Is now geography is little bit different. Geo key, I think I missed out it in between. Let me. So geo key, PK key of this geography. Okay, so seems like we are done with the relationship. Let's scroll and see. No, date key we are missing. So date key with the date key. So I'm also expecting this is one to many single directional relationship. And remember, this dimension is little bit bigger compared to other dimension. Now the customer dimension is something which we have not created, which would have been a little bit bigger dimension. So I'm expecting here many to one single directional from sales to date table, and we have a date key. Again, many to one single directional relationship. I'm confirming that, and I'm all set already with my date table, with my dimension schema and everything. So let's jump on to the Power BI now, which is available here in the service itself. What I'm going to do is on the top, on the left, you see one of the tab as reporting tab or reporting option. So I'm going to click on that, and I see a new report option. So I'm going to click on the new report option, and as I told you, I'm going to do some little bit of data validation here, and the data validation will happen here. Staging versus what we have got in this model. So this is the model which we have created with help from ChatGPT with no or little modification. So what I'm going to do is from my sales table, I'm going to drag category, and I'm also going to drag quantity from my sales staging, and I'm going to create a parallel visual dim from the dim item and from the fact sales, bringing in the quantity. And we need to validate both of them. And as you can see, both of them are giving the same result. Let's check out the newly created column, which is basically the gross amount. Is it working or not? So that's also working. Let's do some testing with the geography, bring in city from the geo and the quantity from the fact, make it as a table, then the total should match. And just to showcase you this one again from the staging table also, I have bought the quantity, and let me bring in the city. We convert it into a table, and what we can do is both the sides we can sort on the same thing. So you can see the numbers are also matching. Same thing you could have compared here, numbers are matching. So we created from a single table which doesn't have the dimensions, we created our own dimension table with help from ChatGPT with the little bit of code. So why don't you go ahead and try this out, and do let me know what else you want me to cover in this particular series of Microsoft Fabric. Thanks for watching this video. Thank you.